you agree that, it's time that we all wake up and take responsibility, even for our ancestors that did not know any better?
Been waiting patiently to have this kind of conversation. Well, it's Wake Up with KC, and today I want to talk about long shots. We've all had long shots, overcame life experiences, and how do we take our experiences, learn and grow, and what can we take from it, or do we stay in, the being stuck, being in, whatever circumstances, environment. And I have a very special guest that I'm very honored and grateful for joining us today. Please welcome Michael Stein.
Oh, well, thank you very much. That was nice.
Well, I mean, long shot, leader, you have a podcast. And, when we first met and talked and you shared some of the things, I couldn't wait, but there were some technical issues
Yeah.
and whatnot. So we rescheduled. So I'm so glad that we're back together and doing this, because you do have a very interesting, inspiring story about your life. And I'm impressed. And I'm like so proud of you of what you have done and what you did to transform your life and who you become now. Can you please share with us, your life journey, how it began and whatnot?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That was so nice. So yeah, I do a podcast called Long Shot Leaders. And, the reason why I do that, I've been wanting to do a podcast for a long time. So if I was going to do a podcast, it would have to be encapsulate who we are. I believe you should just, it's like stand-up comedy, which I've done. You have to, talk about and write about what you are and who you are. So I come from a long line of long shots. My grandmother escaped the Russian concentration camps on our way to America. My dad was a New York homeless street kid, became a multimillionaire only to lose it all and become homeless again. So I had to grow up in the same room with my grandmother until, I grew up in Encino. I grew up in a rich area, but we were a poor family because my dad lost all his money, right? So I had to sleep in the same room with my grandmother. So I was 9 years old, and I would hear that story. You're lucky to be alive, because we escaped the Russian concentration camps. And then my mom, I was an oops baby. I was basically, just she was trying to hold on to that crazy guy. My dad had this crazy lifestyle and he wasn't around, but I was the oops baby in a very large family. And she, I wasn't supposed to be born. So she would tell me stories like, I drank, I ran up and down the stairs, I smoked, I, did this and that, and then I was like, Mom, did she tell everybody the story? Could you just tell them whether you want ranch or blue cheese, because let's just get the story going. So I would hear the story. She would tell this to everybody. So my whole life has been an up and down career. Knock on wood, the past 20 years have been very more successful. But I grew up seeing a lot of long shots and a lot of ebb and flow. We can get into that. But my life, I was born premature, a lot of health issues, ADHD, ADD, dyslexia. I was put in a special home for special needs kids until I, finally got out of there. I was able to go to regular school. And basically, I really didn't have any success other than making people laugh, making fun of myself. That was the first bit of success. But I was just a basket case until I was like 11 years old. Like most boys here in America, I saw the movie Rocky. And that inspired me. And I said, here's a guy like me. Here's a guy that fails a lot, but gets back up and keeps on trying. He's funny, but the only difference between Rocky and myself is he's physically fit. So I made an agreement with myself every day since then, I'm going to become physically fit. So that's when really things turned around, because I had a second bit of success. By the time I was 16, I became a fitness trainer, and that opened doors for self-esteem. So my journey began there, but many other things happened after that. But that was really what turned things around when I started to believe in myself with a second bit of success and health.
Wow. And you just didn't let, your disabilities and health issues get in the way, no matter what somebody told you. It was just this one person that changed your mindset.
Right.
And it's almost like, well, if he could do it, I can too, kind of mentality. Something shifted. Your energy shifted. The biochemistry in your body shifted. So you a fitness trainer at 16. That's amazing. A huge accomplishment.
Well, I know a lot of fitness trainers who, they were 16, but I guess from where I started from, just being a physical, basket case, I just was not athletic. My mother put me in a basketball league for 1 year, and it was a Hebrew league, and I was the worst player in the whole league. And to be the worst player in a Hebrew league, that's pretty bad. So, but what happened is that when you change your physiology, that's step number one in the triad of emotions, is you change your physiology. So when my physiology changed, even at a young age, it was a dopamine rush, and I was able to be healthy and feel different after exercising. I just wanted to be like Rocky. That's all I know. He got so much respect. I mean, people don't know that are older. That movie came out, won Academy Award in '76. It was like this big thing. It was like kind of a revolutionary kind of story, and it's a great script, and it just made an impact on me. And from having a second bit of success, when everybody's like, oh, look at the results I got, because I was so hyper, I had that, what they call hyper attention towards something. And I just I felt all I at that time was wanted to make people laugh and get physically fit. That was it. Those are the two things. I was hyper focused on those two things. And because I wasn't a good student, I barely graduated high school, to which I wanted to be like my dad, who was an entrepreneur. He was called the calculator kid. He was a multimillionaire, made millions of dollars in the 70s, selling these calculators. I said, I want to be the calculator kid. So when I told my high school tutor, I said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, an actor, and a comedian. Those are the things I want to be. And she says, well, you might want to just work with your hands, because that requires reading and intelligent things. And I said, well, screw you. And I started a business a week after I graduated high school, and it failed miserably. And I said, well, maybe she's right. God, what am I going to do? Then 6 months later, I took city college courses. I took psychology and theater and business. And within 6 months, I decided I did stand-up comedy, because I was always wanted to do when I was 19. And I brought a lot of people there. And I said, you know what? I could probably bring people to nightclub. So I got into nightclub promotion. And within 6 months, I became the number one nightclub promoter in Los Angeles. When I was, 19 years old. And that was the third bit of success. And I was like, wow, I feel like I see there's failure, but there's success after failure. I was used to the failure part already. So I got into nightclub promotion, which opened up all the doors for me, because you become like a mini celebrity. So I ended up doing probably the biggest nightclub promotion, event for a movie ever, for the Batman movie in 1989, which had like 4,000 people. I orchestrated this big event. And through there, I was able to get my first acting role playing Dirk Diggler in the Dirk Diggler story, which eventually turned into Boogie Nights, which I appear in as well. And things really started to open up, for my quest to be an actor and a filmmaker and an entrepreneur.
And where does the Dirk Diggler story and the Boogie Nights stem from? Where was it inspired?
Well, my girlfriend and Paul Thomas Anderson's girlfriend at the time were sisters. And I had to drive him home one night. He didn't have a car. He was just 17 years old. And I drove him home, and I was cracking him up. And, he had him in tears. And a day later, he calls me up and says, look, I got an idea. I want to do a short film about the rise and fall of a porno star named Dirk Diggler. And I want you to play Dirk Diggler. And I was like, well, I want to be an actor. So hell yeah, let's do it. I don't even know what it was. I don't even know what the plan was. I just went over there. We had like a pseudo production meeting over at his parents' house. And, about a few months later, he followed through with it, and he did a short film called The Dirk Diggler Story, which won awards, won an American Film Institute award for video, even though it was a video back then. And he eventually segued into, doing another short film that did really well. And then that helped him segue into a motion picture film, his first film, Heart 8, and that enabled him to make eventually Boogie Nights.
Wow. And I hear an echo.
It's not me.
Where it's coming from.
You sound great.
Well, thank you. You do too. So during that, when you got a taste of acting, and then and then the nightclub promoting and whatnot, there was parties. There had to been some parties going on. And wild and crazy. I mean, this is like in the 70s and whatnot, and you're still young. Did you have some learning experiences along the way too?
Oh my God. Well, what happened was when I started promoting clubs, everything happened so fast because my success grew so fast. So like I said, you become like a mini celebrity. And also at the time, my girlfriend was Peter Guber's daughter. So Peter Guber, who won Academy Award a year before I met her, he won an Academy, or actually it was the year I met her. He won an Academy Award for Rain Man for Best Picture. He was the producer. And then he would produce Batman. So, I really like this girl. I didn't want to do certain things like go on Learjets, They said, come on the Learjet. But I ended up going on my first trip to Aspen with the Guber family. And I felt really out of place. I felt, I was the poor kid from Encino to begin with. But then I'm going to Bel Air, and I'm going to the richest of Bel Air, Peter Guber and Mandalay Ranch up in Aspen. And I see, we go to lunch, and I see his family, the Guber family, and John Peters, his partner, his family, they're going to lunch. And I see a friend of mine, and I didn't know it was John Peters' son, is Chris Peters. And he's wearing a black leather jacket. And I'm wearing a black leather jacket. And I was like, well, here's a guy kind of like me. He doesn't seem like, he's got the 40-yard stare. He doesn't seem like he's the rich guy. He's the son of a rich guy, but he seems like kind of like me. So and his name's Chris, and I said, hey, Chris, we're best friends today. But back then I was like, hey, what's going on? It's been a while since I've seen you. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm promoting clubs. I said, what are you doing? He goes, well, I kind of want to get into clubs. And that's all it took. I was like, we went in the restaurant. It was like, I took the floor. It was like, 17 people sitting at the table. And when you feel confident about something, so I mastermind the Batman party. I said, we'll be partners on it. And we'll get, it was just a big event that we planned, 6 months in advance. And, Matt Dyke, who owned Delicious Vinyl, which was one of the coolest labels at that time, a record label, he was my DJ. And we had, every star in Hollywood, show up there. It was just a massive undertaking. And, 2 weeks after that meeting, though, I was, at Warner Brothers with the head of advertising, Rob Friedman, and dealing with, my friend's dad and my girlfriend's dad. And it was just that was a big learning experience to have, 21 years old to go through, that just blew my mind, and things really started to move fast after that.
It's like your wheels were spinning, and you didn't have time to take in, the success, and then there was another downfall.
Right. So it happened so fast, and it was a cash business. I felt like it wasn't real. And I also felt like the insecurity, like maybe I only deserve to do something that's legitimate, because this cash business was like, it was so unconventional. And people were like, all, looking at me like, wow, like this is so much money. And it was like so fast. And I said, maybe I should do something else, but what I ended up, leaving the business for a little bit, but what I really wanted to do was be, an actor and a filmmaker. So I left I started promoting, bigger parties. And then I said, I saw this rave scene. I wasn't into the rave scene, but I said, a lot of these DJs and magazine writers are creating these big events, and they're like mini celebrities to themselves. I said, why don't I try to do a documentary to segue into the movie business, film business? So I did a documentary on the history of LA clubs. And then I packed the Park Plaza Hotel again, which is like the holy grail of nightclub, venues, 4,000 people again. And then I said, I'm going to leave the nightclub business, and I'm going to do a documentary on the rave scene around America. And I got a friend to finance it. And I went around the country for 4 months, wrote, directed, produced a documentary on the rave scene. And it didn't do very well. It did well, like within circles, but it didn't make money. You got to make money when you do these things. Otherwise you can't do a second one. So I was like, I didn't know what to do. I went back to promoting clubs. I did underground gambling casinos in LA, along with other club parties, but my heart wasn't really into it. So and after I got approached by somebody loosely connected to the Castellano family that wanted to be partners with me, I said, I think I'm going to start to be a filmmaker and really just I just left everything. I said, and I worked as a production assistant in film production for 3.5 years. And then I learned how to become a filmmaker through that, because you work with the best of the best on commercials and videos and music videos. And from there, I wrote, directed, and produced an award-winning short film called Rituals and Resolutions, which made the second pass of the live action short category for the Academy Awards, and it got bought by HBO, and did really well, and almost got me a movie deal, because you get approached by everybody in Hollywood and they say, we want to see what else you have. So one of my screenplays was about underground gambling casinos in Los Angeles. And they wanted to make that film, and it came really close with Trimark Pictures to make it, but there was just so much red tape. And after 2 years of that, production, just BS, I was like, screw it. I'm so done with this. I'm going to make my own movie. Only problem was I was broken in debt. And I said, well, I'll just become an entrepreneur again, like I did. I'm a little bit older now. Screw it. I'm just going to, have more confidence. And this is right around the internet was, I had a couple of years in. I said, I just need to, sell a product on the, I want to be the calculator kid. I want to be an entrepreneur, right? So I want to find a product like my dad did. And I just chose tarps because that was an item that my dad used to be in the tool business in the 60s. The reason why I tell you that is because his partner at the time stuck with the tool business. And when my dad went to go sell those calculators, his name was Alan Smith. He started a company called Harbor Freight, which is a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company. And I said, well, I want to do something like that guy, start off with a concept, a niche concept. He actually ended up selling all kinds of things. So I started this business for my film to make money to make a film. And within 6 months of this tarp business, I made $500,000, and I was able to fund my first feature-length movie called Love Hollywood Style with Faye Dunaway, Andy Dick, and Coolio, and many other actors that you've seen. And it did well in film festivals, but it didn't make as money. It was crazy, a crazy production, because trying to do a short film compared to a feature-length film is a lot harder. It's just not, 3 times as long. It's not 3 times hard. It's exponentially more difficult. So I almost bottomed out my business, and I just had such a crazy, time with this movie that after it was over, I was happy I did it, but I decided I'm going to just put my heart and soul in this business. And I chose opportunity over passion. I still did stand-up comedy, but I stuck with that business, and that business since has made over $100 million and continues to grow today.
Wow. That's impressive, Michael. And then can you look back and notice similar patterns from your father, your mother that passed on to you?
Yeah, of course.
How long did it take for you to recognize that?
Well, I always wanted to be my dad until I found out that he cheated on my mom for 25 years. And I didn't want to do that. But he looked like, a cross between Elvis and Robert De Niro. He wore black all the time. He's very striking, very good looking guy. And he was, he lived this great lifestyle, but it was crazy lifestyle. So much so when my friend Paul met him, he kind of loosely based, caricatures of, in Boogie Nights, the Burt Reynolds character, Jack Horner, was loosely based on my dad's caricatures, because he was such a crazy, he had the crazy, orgy parties in LA and Valley. And it just basically, so I wanted to be like that kind of flamboyant kind of guy, but I don't want to be unfaithful. So my mom, I'm like her in the sense that, she is she looks like Marilyn Monroe but has a personality of Dawn Rickles. So both of you could see her pictures right here. I don't know if you could see that. You see that woman sitting on the bed in her towel right there? You can't see that.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. That's
my mom, and then next to her, the guy wearing the black is my dad. They look like, so I wanted to. It was tough because it's good to be around that environment, but when I say I was a basket case because I stuttered a lot when I was a kid because everybody spoke so fast in my family. You're the youngest. And I had to get over these things. And with my mother, she spoke so fast. So I would try to be like her, but the words would trip over. So eventually, you become a little bit closer like your parents. So I try to take, all the good and try to be my own person at the same time. So that's what I got from them. I definitely saw past of my, failure and successes with my dad. I seen my dad live out of a van when I, go to school, my last year of school, and, knock on the van, hey dad, I'm going to school now, and he's like, all right, and I've seen him bounce back, many times up and down. And I guess that's why I do a podcast called Long Shot Leaders, because I wanted to tell a story that I'm used to, or a life that I'm very familiar with. And I got heavily involved in personal development when I was in my early 20s, right after I stopped promoting nightclubs. I got heavily involved in that. And that's kind of like what helped me to push forward on these things and kind of deal with, everything and integrate, stuff like stand-up comedy and filmmaking and acting and entrepreneurship, so those are things that kind of helped me see the ebb and flow of my father and the failures and successes, and then also, help to succeed today, and have sustained success, which is the key.
Right. And it was like the hard school of knocks of learning of how to be successful, because your dad didn't get taught, your mom didn't get taught. So you had to look outside and have other people. And your first, inspiration of success was, what Rocky did. Sylvester Stallone, who played the part, but that was your stepping stone. And with every experience was another stepping stone. And just listening to your story, I see, you mentioned John Rickles, Marilyn Monroe, and then the comical comedian side on that side, and then your dad, the ups and downs of his success and failures. You actually learned of what not to do, what you say.
Right. Absolutely. My dad had a heart attack off of cocaine. I never touched cocaine in my life because I was so freaked out about doing cocaine. I was around a lot of pot growing up, because that just blows in your face. But, luckily being the youngest, I saw a lot of accidents happen in front of me with, some of my other brothers and sisters. So I was able to kind of witness those things and not make those same mistakes, because there was a lot of volatility in my family, a lot of, a big family, a lot of anger, and just a lot of carnality, a lot of crazy stuff,
Right. But you didn't look at it in a concept or a mindset of it didn't necessarily traumatize you. It just, you thought, oh, I ain't doing that. Kind of, you created that mindset of, I ain't doing that. That's, effed up. Instead of looking at it, oh my God, that's so horrific or traumatizing.
That's right. You think though, there was a time where I was like, wanted to be like my dad. So it would creep in there though, my dad, I was like, I grew pot in my parents' hill and I told it to friends, and I was like, because you gotta cut corners, because if you don't cut corners, you're a sucker, which is a stupid thing that because my dad cut all kinds of corners, I knew better, but when you're around that, you kind of dabble a little bit. So it's like you dip your feet in the water a little bit, because you see, your father, you think it's a possibility. But I did know, because I saw such an other end of the spectrum. When my dad got arrested, he spent 3 months in jail. So I had to work. I worked for him for free to make sure that he had money when he got out when I was 18 years old. I was visiting the old man in jail, and like, I never want this to happen to me. This is crazy. So you remember those things. And I actually think that growing up where I grew up in a rich neighborhood, being the black sheep family, so to speak, was a good thing, because you see the possibility of what you could have, but you don't have. And you see like a very big extreme. So once again, that's why maybe I gravitate towards stories of people that, have gone from extreme, lengths, not just success in like monetary success, but I like to talk to people that maybe like on the podcast, like a couple weeks ago, we had somebody that was homeless for 12 years and since they were 10 years old. And then they became not home. Yeah. And then become not homeless. It was like almost like a nomad land. And I was like, this is an awesome story. And those are the kind of stories I kind of glom onto because I've seen so many of them, and it's kind of like a Rocky story, and I've thought that maybe that's why I liked Rocky, because I saw somebody that was down from the bottom, that went up to the top, and maybe down to the bottom again, as the other Rocky movies came out, I was like, I know this story really well. I've seen it happen so many times, my death, I've seen my dad's brother shot and killed himself, when I was 16 years old, right after I met my dad's brother. And I've seen so many people, go through so many highs and lows that, boy, I really hit you with a heavy one there, didn't I? But to have sorry, that's the ADHD in me. I'll just ramble and go off on, but those are the things that really kind of, attract me, is to see the juxtaposition between the highs and lows of somebody's life, and of course ending in a more positive direction.
Yeah, that it's part of, the journey in life, based on what you experience, how you take it, what you do with it, to determine where you want to go and what you want to do and be and have in your future self.
Right.
Would it be safe to say that a lot of people stay stuck in their past and the trauma and like toxic relationships because they don't look at it in a different perspective of, okay, I don't want this. And
right.
That's probably what's the barrier that's keeping them from becoming the better version of themselves. Right.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That's a great observation, because what will help someone change is well, first you got to get over the fear, but what's more importantly, you're always going to have fear, but if you could force your body and make a decision towards an action irreverently, even though no matter what, you make that action, if you can make that a second time, it's easier than the first time. It's easier the third time than it is the second time. And you can, and so on. So it's just forcing yourself. You have to really, that first time, realize, but people get so stuck with so much fear and they never take that first step. That's why firewalks are so valuable in personal development seminars, because it's a metaphor to just moving forward without hesitation. There's another exercise that I learned through my first comedy teacher, who's an NLP practitioner, neuro-linguistic programming. Simplistically, take a 30 feet away from you a yellow pad of paper, close your eyes, and visualize where the paper is, and walk towards that piece of paper without hesitation. If you do not hesitate, 9 times out of 10, and you put your hand down where you think the paper is going to be, 9 times out of 10, you're going to hit that piece of paper if you do not hesitate. If you hesitate in the slightest, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to touch that piece of paper. And that has to do with making the first step, not hesitating, and forcing yourself irreverently. You have to just push forward and make that action. And I think that's what people don't do many times, more often than not. And that's why they stay in ruts or stay in quagmire, so to speak, like you said.
Right. And have you ever experienced, even though when you were in fear and all of your thoughts that were creating fear, and you did it anyway, and then you look back like, oh, that's not what I thought it was going to be like. That wasn't so bad after all kind of moment.
Right. Well, we're all operate from fear. So try to get fear to work towards your advantage, right? Because we're all operating off of pleasure and pain principles, right? So we want to try to be able to say, flip it, so if you're afraid of something, then, well, if you didn't take action, because there's different levels of feelings, right? There's things that don't feel good for you that are bad for you. There's things that do feel good for you that are good for you. There's things that are good for you but don't feel good, and that's the third one. Most things, like eating broccoli in the beginning, might not feel good, but it's good for you. So we want to learn how to, if I don't do this thing that is good for me but doesn't feel good, what pain can I associate towards not taking action? Because all that person, before they're afraid to enter in, the pain that when they don't take action, they sit there and they'll say, oh, well, I'm just focusing on all the pain about taking the action. Well, you got to focus on all because pain works actually better than the carrot. The stick is more influential than the carrot. Studies have shown us that. You got to do both, and all the pleasure you will get from taking the action, but also the pain. And then you really, a lot of people don't have that. I didn't know that. I had to learn that the hard way, so, but if you had somebody explain to you and kind of push yourself, then after a while, if you learn this methodology, it's not too difficult. It becomes healthy self-hypnosis. And you do that with anything.
Yeah, like you create a new habit. People form habits form your future. And then, even though, to me, fear is false evidence appearing real. And like when you think about the fear and you question, like, okay, how much is the pain going to be? Or how much is this going to cost me if I don't take this action? Even if it's a little baby step of an action to change the dynamics, to, help that transformation of getting out from the circumstances that you're currently in, because all circumstances are temporary. Right. Most of the time they are, right. And we do it to ourselves majority of the time.
Right. It's the try. I think that also there's a little tricks that you can do to yourself that I learned out through the years. The triad of emotions, we talked about that, I think, before, but when you got to set yourself up for taking action, right? So a lot of people say, I don't know how to do this. Well, first of all, if you're, physiology is the first action, in the triad of emotions. Change your physiology, set it up for success. If you're going to take massive action and you're going to be fearful for taking this action, if your body is positioned in a place of power as opposed to, face drawn, shoulders slouched, that's the recipe for physiology for, not for failure. So you want to try to set yourself up for an empowering position physically. Then you want to focus on what you're getting, what you want to get, rather than focusing on what you don't want. So, well, I don't want that. I understand that you don't want that, but what do you want? Well, then focus on that. Can you see that? What does that look like? What's happening there? So you got your physiology, you got your focus. Now, what are your words, your internal words like? Or what are you saying to other people about taking that action? Is it in the negative? Well, I don't want to do that, or I don't that, or what do you want? So, well, I don't want, to get hurt. Well, no, you want to be safe. There's two totally different, ways of looking at something. So mind your words, mind your physiology, mind your focus, and that will enable somebody to take that first action. That's the triad of emotions, which is the very first step to at least get you ready. Get your mind ready towards taking action.
And wouldn't you agree that not only that, but when you can vision like what you're doing, who you're being, the feeling of just the thought of it, there's a connection to that because you're creating the energy and it's already done. You already created it.
Yeah,
it's just they focus in and being in that state of being that person that you want to be.
Absolutely. All these things are interactive with each other too. And the synergy of them together, you need all three really for it to work. But, once you start to focus, that'll affect your physiology. Once you get your physiology, it'll affect what you're focusing on. And also the words that you're saying, all those things, you get one, it'll help the second one. You get two, it'll help the third, so all those things are interactive with each other.
And it just becomes habitual.
Absolutely. Just like anything, patterns we're all human beings are pattern driven people, and we'd be surprised on, the old saying, like, if you go up to somebody and, you link them up to an emotion. So if somebody has goes to a funeral and their father dies and you pat them on the shoulder and say, sorry, Jill, I'm so sorry about your dad. He was a great man. And another person comes on to Jill and pats her on the shoulder and says, sorry, Jill. And everybody's patting her on the shoulder, right? And then about 4 months later, Jill's in a bad mood for some reason, but she doesn't know why. Well, that's probably because somebody walked up to her. This is neuro-linguistic programming almost, where it taps her on the shoulder, and all of a sudden she had a link, a small subconscious link towards that feeling. It's not a major one, but a slight one. She's like, I don't know why I'm depressed right now. Well, these patterns, we're pattern-driven people, so you got to realize and be cognitive and be careful, and how you're talking to yourself and how your position is. Are you creating a pattern when you meet somebody, the same person that you have a problem with or something? How can you change these patterns that will enable you towards a more successful direction? Because there's like a grooves in a record. It's hard to unscratch those grooves after they've been recorded. You got some work to do after they've been recorded.
Well, not only that, but of Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Bruce Lipton. They talk about the programming of deep down in our subconscious mind, and it goes from even in the time of the womb. Then you come into this earth, and then you're getting more programming.
Right.
And so you have a aha self-awareness or self-realization, like, hold up a second. I call it the aha moment. It's like, wait, hold up.
Right.
And
yeah, I used to do the ABCs in my wife's stomach with the kids. I figured, maybe the subconscious will register, the sounds of the alphabet.
Yeah, and how did that work?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know I don't have an A/B test to see if I didn't do that. So hopefully it worked.
You know what? There's been science and studies and research that classical music, babies listening inside the womb, classical music, because now me being a spiritual intuitive plus a retired massage therapist, I learned about Reiki energy and then the chakras, and every one of our chakras resonates with a note. So there's a connection with music, and classical music vibrates and resonates with each one of our chakras. And was it Mozart or somebody, the genius, the brilliance and whatnot related to that it's amazing and very impressive. So just the nugget there.
I haven't heard that, but that sounds fascinating.
It is, once you really get into it, and then the binaural beats and going into the alpha, beta, theta, gamma waves. We are so powerful, and so it's mind-boggling, but because of all the programmings, we're only maybe scratch the surface.
Every time someone talks like that, I get a craving for incense, wine, and candles. But that's just me. I could, the music now, the room is dim, the incense is flowing, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds nice.
Baby, then.
I have that side to me. I was like, that sounds nice. I like that.
I think everybody should take a moment, even if it's 10 minutes to do it. It changes the biochemistry. It changes the energy.
Right.
10 minutes first thing in the morning, 10 minutes at night. And then after you get in the practice of doing that, you'll take the initiative. I mean, automatically you'll stay in a little bit longer.
Right.
And then a little bit longer. And it's amazing what it does for, it's like self-care to me.
Yeah. That makes sense. I'm a little hyper, so I need to practice that. But I need a sponsor, maybe.
Well, hey, I'll be more than happy to help you, get you the right music, get you the right incense, the candles, even the essential aromatherapy oils to help.
Oh, yeah. I do that. I take lavender oil and I sprinkle it in a little wasabi dish. Wasabi dish is clean, but it's next to the bed because I heard that lavender is good, to smell, it gets you to, and that's spiritual for me, at the because I'm so hyper. But that's my I so badly want to be like a cool Mr. Miyagi, as I get older, with the lessons and the whole. Now, where did I turn into Woody Allen all of a sudden?
I don't know, but this is awesome. So chamomile tea too.
Chamomile, yeah, I love my green tea. I love to do all that. The Okinawan, I gotta make it out there to Okinawan. Those guys are barrel laughs, and they know how to live. They drink all that stuff and do all the right meditation and all that stuff.
Have you ever tried hypnotherapy?
I have. I've gotten into hypnotherapy and also self-hypnosis, which I think, there's different levels of that too, right? Mm-hmm. So I've never gone to a hypnotherapist formally, but I've gone to like, Tony Robbins seminars because I've done every seminar he's done. I've met a lot of hypnotherapists and we've had like, you're there for like 6 days, you do a hypnotherapy session.
And how did that work for you?
That's great. I mean, it's like, to me, it makes sense. Hypnotherapy is just basically, kind of like what we talked about. You're putting yourself in state. You're creating a pattern, a positive pattern. You're creating neuro associations towards negative thoughts and positive thoughts, and leading yourself in the directions that you want to go into. It all makes sense to me. I'm very practical like that. So to me, that part of hypnotherapy really clicked to me, and I was like, okay, yeah, this makes sense.
Right. And I look at it as like especially when personal development and you tried all these other techniques, modalities and whatnot, and you just get a little bit forward, but then you come to a block kind of thing. You're like, okay, I did this. What in the world is still that block that I can't press through? Then I go, now she's a spiritual advisor, but she's a multi-dimensional certified hypnotherapist. So I told her, I'm like, and I tell her, like, this is what I'm dealing with. I got this far, but I feel like there's something blocking and I can't quite attain or grasp or understand what it is that block is. Can we do a hypnotherapist session and go to my subconscious? Because I want to nip this in the butt.
Yeah.
So I find it fascinating. Yes, hypnotherapy will do wonders, especially if you're struggling with something and you can't quite, the truth is inside. It's in here. You just got to learn how to practice to get in. And sometimes you need a little push or a little help.
Yeah, and there are some people that are really good at administering, good, healthy hypnotherapy. Not talking about hocus pocus. I'm just talking about opening up your mind and having you go, think of a pattern and enforcing that pattern. That's how people get smoking. They're like, say, what, I saw a hypnotist. I said, you just went to somebody that was good with hypnotherapy. And associated in that meeting about smoking, they associated massive pain towards you smoking and massive pleasure towards you not smoking, concentrated probably 70% on the pain, right? And they probably just talked to you. And then that was like 75 to 80% of your whole session. And the last 20% was maybe like, okay, now close your eyes and all that. They're trying to get you to associate, most hypnotherapists, as far as like, and then that works because they're good at that. They're good at getting you to recognize those things and creating those patterns of thought in your head that lead you to the direction that you say you want to go in.
Absolutely. And your podcast.
On that note.
Yeah. But I mean, because you have good insight, and I'm so happy that you went on this journey of podcasting. And you have guests on your show as well. And I look forward to being a guest on your show.
Yeah, because you have a great long shot story. We won't get into it. This is, you told me a good one last time we talked.
Mm-hmm. And everybody has to wait to go on your show to find out.
I'm excited to get into that. Then you'll be doing most of the talking, and I'll be picking your brain, and that'll be nice. That'll be fun.
Oh yes, absolutely. But when do you air your podcasts?
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I record them on Fridays, sometimes like Thursday night and a Saturday morning, but I record them mostly on Fridays. But it's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Today we had a bonus episode, but usually just Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
And how long have you? When did you start this podcast?
About 4 months ago. We started in March of this year. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. I look forward to being on your show. And I do believe I put the description in down below where everybody can click on the link to get access to. You're on many platforms like Apple, Spotify, and all them.
Every platform that you could find a podcast on, we're at. And we're, if you go to any social, place, or you can go to our website, just look up Long Shot Leaders. You'll find our website. If you have a long shot story, and you're listening to this fine show today, it doesn't have to be monetary, any kind of long shot story where you're overcome large obstacles to find success, of spiritual or financial or, physical. Just, we want to hear about that story and want to tell it.
Awesome. And is there another movie project or a book maybe?
There is. I'm working on a documentary about that crazy film I did. We just found the footage to that film when I was working out of my house. I had the film production out of the house, or I had the business out of the house. This was a house I was renting for $800 a month. It was a shack in Sherman Oaks. It was, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and it was just people coming and going. It was crazy. And it basically goes from there to the film shoot. And we're doing it's basically a documentary about choosing passion and opportunity, because we examine other film, people in the film industry that have, sacrificed almost everything in their whole life, for a project. And it's called Burning the Boats. And we talked to other people, but mainly the backdrop is this film, Love Hollywood Style, where we burn the boats, to nearly burn all the boats to, make this film. And I'm going through the editing process right now, and hopefully we'll be done with it by the end of this year. And it'll be in film festivals, and then hopefully you'll go to Netflix after that.
Oh, wow. Because now the movie industry has changed. There's so many people streaming now,
Right.
And it's just, how the world evolves and changes. And, just like, I remember, the 8-track, and then the cassettes, then it went from the CDs. Now you got it.
Yeah, somebody wanted Love Hollywood Style, and I said, well, I got a DVD. And they're like, nobody watches DVDs anymore. You just want to be able to stream it.
Right. So upload it into an MP4, and boom, there you go. You got a link, and it's done. It's
Right.
that. It's like, wow. It's so much easier now.
It is. It's fascinating. I love it. I love technology.
So do I. And I continue to learn to better my skills constantly. How about you?
Yeah, the learning process. I like to look at myself like I want to be that young Miyagi. I want to be that one that learns, and and hopefully by my last breath, I will have that moment of enlightenment and be like, yeah, and that's it.
You've already been enlightened, Michael. You are a master of your own destiny and the captain to your soul.
Oh, that feels good. I'm ready to go conquer the world now after that.
Go.
Right. I shall do this.
Well, Michael, it was a pleasure having you on the show. I look forward to staying in touch and hearing more about your endeavors and your amazing accomplishments. And I wish you the best of success. I really do.
Likewise. Thank you so much. And I'll be looking forward to talking to you about your story real soon.
Awesome.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, there you go. That was insightful, very informative, and also valuable, message that Michael shared with us today. And you know what? Look forward to more amazing guests and amazing interviews right here on Wake Up with KC.
Do you agree that, it's time that we all wake up and take responsibility, even for our ancestors that did not know any better?
Been waiting patiently to have this kind of conversation.